is like a scientist, and she is, I'm pretty sure, they never say it in the book, but I am pretty sure that Rue is neurodivergent. And she works with like her friend and her best friend at this biology, food, engineering place in Austin, Texas. And she meets up with guys to have relations, if you know what I'm saying. And they only meet one time. And the one night she is going to meet up with a guy named Eli. And then just all of this stuff happens that hinders them from actually getting to the meat and potatoes. And they end up not hooking up. And then the next day at work, they learn that their like place of business is getting acquired. And who is the guy acquiring them? Eli. And then they just start building this relationship. It's more of like a love-hate relationship. But oh my goodness, this was so good. I feel like I'm not explaining it right. But I freaking loved this book. The writing was absolutely impeccable. The dialogue between characters was a steady flow, and the plot just kept going. I didn't ever feel like we were stuck on one subject for too long, and that was a big issue that I had with the first Ali Hazelwood book that I read. The dialogue between characters kept getting interrupted by internal thoughts, and she didn't do that this time, and she won me back over. So this was like a 5 out of 5. Okay, not a 5 out of 5, maybe like a 4 out of 5, but it was so good. The next book that I read was The Lonely Hearts Club by Lucy Gilmore. I have had this book for quite some time. It's just been sitting in the back, and I was like, you know what, it is time to finally pick it up. So I did. I picked it up. This book is about Sloane. It's Sloane. This book is about Sloane, and she works at her local public library. She's a very anxious people pleaser girl, and one day a moody asshole customer comes in named Arthur, and he's like pretty well known by all of the morning staff because Sloane just started working the morning shift, and he's just a brooding old grumpy man, and everybody is terrified of him and want nothing to do with him. And Sloane kind of makes it her mission to be nice to him, give him recommendations, just go out of her way for him. And then one day Arthur misses his library time. He always came to the library at the exact same time. He was never late, and she finds it very strange. So she decides to go and visit him, and she has a fiance, and the first time they go over to his house, the fiance's with her, and come to find out, it gets back to her boss that she is like creeping on this old man to make sure that he's okay, and she gets fired. And Arthur had not came in because he had fallen ill. So now that Sloane is fired from her job, she's deciding, okay, I'm gonna crack Arthur's code, and I am going to take care of him because he is such an asshole that all of the nurses that are like, I can't think, all of the nurses that are assigned to him end up just never coming back because he is such an asshole. So then throughout this story, there's several different characters that start getting involved. It's Sloane and then Mateo, decides that she doesn't really know the truth about her heritage, and she knows that her mom's never going to tell her. So she decides she's just going to go study abroad, and she ends up meeting Lan. Now, Vivi is obsessed with Lan's blog and Instagram, and she tells her, like, you're the reason why I'm here in Vietnam studying. Like, I'm following your guide and everything that you've written, and I'm learning about my heritage. It was so good. They teach each other so much, and it just was so beautiful. The author Trinity, when talks about festivals in Vietnam and the food and the culture and just everything that she knows, you know, about Saigon, and that was beautiful to me, because through her writing, I truly, truly felt that I was transported to Vietnam, and it was just such an amazing story to see the culture, the way they live, the things that they celebrate, and the things that they go through. And like I told you in my book haul, Vietnam is on my bucket list of places to visit, and this just solidified it even more. I'm so very intrigued by different cultures and different ways that people live. Oh, I cannot recommend this book enough. Please pick it up, give it a try. Oh, just amazing. The final book that I read this month was A First Time for Everything by Dan Santat. My daughter put a little sticker on there. I think that's so cute. This book, you guys, I was very intrigued when I picked this book up. I told you guys that I didn't know that this was actually going to be comic style, but this might be my new favorite style of reading. This is kind of a true story, because it is about Dan Santat, who is the author of this book, and I believe he even illustrated it too. I might be wrong, but I think he did. So this just follows his life and growing up. His mom is immunocompromised. I don't think they ever say, or I don't think he ever said in the book what kind of illness she had, but she's just been very sick, and it's been him, his mother, and his father, and he gets the opportunity in 9th grade, I believe, because he was like 14, 15, 16, I can't remember, oh my goodness, but he gets the opportunity to go on a class trip, and they are going all over Europe, and this is just like following his story on traveling through Europe with his school, and he's always kind of been an outcast, and people have made fun of him, and he's been bullied, but this just kind of shows you how, when thrown into these unknown situations, like if you send a group of American students to Europe, the bond between them, they definitely will come back stronger, because they're in a new country where they don't speak the language and they don't know much about the culture, so all they really have is each other. And that's what this book was, kind of took you on the journey of, and Dan falling for his crush and staying with like foreign exchange like houses, you know, like when someone hosts you, a host else. I know he's written a few other books, so I kind of need to find something like this. So if you know anything like this, kind of similar, let a girl know. That was my, oh my goodness, it's like air in my throat. But please, please, please let a girl know. Alright, my love. Alright, my love. Alright. That is the end of this reading wrap up. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know what you read this month. I'm always looking for new things to read. So please let me know. I hope that you enjoyed this video and had a very good, very safe, happy Halloween. Got indulged in a lot of candy and you just had a good time. I am sending you so much love and energy that's positive, of course.